Hi folks, I just wanted to talk to you about why it's so important now more than ever, as it's always been important, to recommit to our racial healing. This is a moment in a movement that cannot be stopped. Racism started more than 400 years ago and with its roots in anti-Blackness. But the good news is that we can do things every day to reconnect and recommit to our commitments to racial healing, but also look for those everyday actions we can take in our personal and professional lives to make sure that the world is more just and equitable when it comes to racism, white body supremacy, and specifically anti-Blackness. So many of us are wondering what we can do right now in this moment, and there's so many things. We can relearn the history of racism and really teach ourselves the things that we didn't learn in our textbooks, the things that we might not know about what's going on in the world or the land that we now call the United States. We can connect with other people who are teachers who've been on the journey of racial healing for longer than we have been, so we can become learners. And we can talk about our racial healing journey with other people so that we connect with a larger collective of people who are committed to ending racial inequity and injustice and build a movement that racial white supremacy, white body supremacy doesn't want us to build. Racism wants us to stop ourselves in our tracks right now and just be like, I'm overwhelmed, or this is too hard, or wow, this is the same story over and over. But the truth is, when we do question racism, when we do question white body supremacy, when we do, with every breath that we can, engage in everyday actions of racial healing, racial justice, and racial liberation, we are reclaiming our humanity. We are building a different structure and life for ourselves to live in, and we're countering racism in ways that doesn't want to be questioned. So let's keep going. Let's get after it. Let's rest when we need to. Let's grieve when we need to. But now is the time to take that very next step of racial healing.
Good afternoon, St. Andrew Christian Church. Talking about sermon this coming week, we are continuing our sermon series on spiritual resilience. And this particular week, the theme is Purpose Beyond Tradition. And we will look at the Gospel of Mark in the second chapter. And in the latter part of the second chapter is one of those infamous little texts where Jesus kind of rubs up against his own Jewish tradition in terms of a particular practice. And it's not the only time it surfaces in the Gospels, but the practice of Sabbath and how Sabbath is to be observed. And Jesus kind of challenges the leaders and the practicers of that understanding of Sabbath and really what it means. Oftentimes a ritual will get in place, and the ritual itself takes on more meaning than the purpose behind that ritual. And we get so enamored with the ritual itself, we lose its value underneath it. And so this week in this resiliency theme is it's important to have traditions, but what are those purposes behind the traditions that really drive us and give us strength and encouragement in the days to come? And so we'll take a look at this Mark passage on Sabbath. It's interesting that you go back and look at the Hebrew scriptures of the Old Testament, and you will find hundreds of declarations of what you can and can't do on the Sabbath. And there have been so many rules set about the Sabbath, it's almost like it's hard to remember what you can and can't do on a Sabbath day. You're almost frozen that you can't do anything. And Jesus comes along and tries to free the gift of Sabbath back to people in a fresh way. And I think one of the spiritual resilience qualities is taking those long-standing components of our life and giving them new life again, giving them a fresh look and a fresh spirit within ourselves. And so we'll take a look at those things this week as we reflect on the nature of Sabbath, but really about the purpose of the traditions of which are part of our lives, both personally and in the church. So I hope you'll join us on Sunday.